Wherefore, Part 44. The Sisters in Solidarity are running a workshop. This is mostly what they do now, and after some careful consideration, they do it in the evenings at Mill's Cafe. They do not use the kitchen there to prepare the food, but make it at home. There will be no accidental contamination. Both Carolines are active participants in these events. They do not explain themselves, although mostly no one asks. People just look at them in confusion if they happen to have known the previous single Caroline manifestation. They make the jam, the cakes, pies and crumbles that form the heart of the sacred feast. Find inner peace, the posters say. It's not a strong selling point because there are so many classes in Stroud offering inner peace. Work with the magic of plants to transform your life and nourish your soul is the better part of the pitch, and that line brings a steady supply of potential converts. Meetings are fairly simple. They've stolen quite a lot of content from cacao rituals and adapted it to suit. They don't smudge with sage, although they used to, but it's just not cool anymore. They all make up bundles of dried herbs and magical plants and do something that isn't smudging. There's a bit of chanting and meditating to get people in the mood, and then they share the sacred feast and do not mention that the key ingredient is supernatural rhubarb. They can tell you which of the dishes are vegan, gluten-free, sugar-free, carb-free. There's even a jug of rhubarb smoothie for the Raw Brigade, but it is deeply disgusting, and you really have to drown it in coconut sugar or manuka honey that are magically not like putting other kinds of sugar in your body. Next, everyone files out of the cafe's back door and into the cemetery at the top of Bank Gardens. Here, under the supervision of the Sisters in Solidarity, participants are guided to root in the soil and stretch their leaves towards the sky. Most of the said participants do this with their eyes shut, so they don't notice what happens to anyone else. On those occasions where an attendee sees another one sprout leaves, they tend to ascribe it to their own superior visualization skills. In any given session, some of the people turn into plants and some do not, but everyone finds it refreshing and nurturing, so many of them keep coming back. Of course, the more often you do it, the more likely you are to experience real transformation, and it does certainly lead to feelings of euphoria. The Wizard Wigstan is there most weeks. He does not turn into a rhubarb, but has become expert at standing in rhubarb-esque poses and creatively expressing the presence of his leaves. It is hard to tell whether he is utterly devoted to being his best rhubarb self or having a joke at their expense. Given Wigstan, probably both at once. The Sisters in Solidarity talk about him a lot. He is so clearly a fellow traveller, and if he wasn't also so clearly a chap, they would invite him to join their circle. But they are really invested in their sisterhood, and he definitely isn't a sister. Wigstan's primary motive is to keep an eye on things. Sometimes the area around the church is full of saints and the devotees of the saints. So far, the saints and the were-rhubarbs have taken no interest in each other, but he does not trust either group to get this right. Both parties are capable of getting overexcited. The saints are set off by heresies, the Sisters in Solidarity have issues around men telling them what to do. There is an inevitable trajectory here, it's just a question of when. He does not anticipate disaster, although saints on a mass rhubarb harvesting bent could prove complicated. Wigstan is present on the moondark night. As anticipated, Bank Gardens releases all manner of things into the cemetery. To the casual gaze, they look like the kind of people who wander about in Stroud after dark, people going to events that require dressing up, people who appreciate costume and makeup and who have lovingly crafted extra body parts for themselves, made extra mouths out of latex and brought along the fire poi for good measure. Wigstan is adept at quietly getting in the way, so he mostly makes a nuisance of himself, and so far, nothing emerging from Bank Gardens has eaten anyone. However, a couple of especially naive New Agers have been lured off into the temporary undergrowth, and he assumes they will not return. Like all ecosystems, the bank garden's environment needs care and respect. Wigstan knows that you can't take out apex predators without the whole thing going to pot. It's just that humans are so used to being the apex predator, and most do not recognise when it would be better to acknowledge their tasty little meat sacks, or convenient bags of blood, or potential fertiliser, or a warm place to lay your eggs, or something with which to amuse the children. It is not his job to keep the people safe from the others. Being people himself, he has had some biases, although these days, between being a wizard and being full of rhubarb spirit, Wigstan is not as straightforward as he once was. He prefers to raise his leaves when he is alone and does not plant himself. On a quiet night, a careful observer might spot him walking the old roots around Stroud, his leaves jostling with the rhythm of his movement. Most of the time, the rhubarb spirit nestles inside him. They seem content to live just under his ribs, tasting his life and making occasional judgments about his preferences, ideas, and choice of socks. Sometimes they like to be separate so as to have proper conversations about what best to do with sludgy pond water, or where to put the hedgehogs, or whether Wambleforth is flirting with them. Wigstan finds the spirit companionable and has adapted well to the way it may either be inside him or outside. He has no trouble holding the edges of himself either way. He feels bigger on the inside than he used to, but that isn't a problem. What is definitely a problem is that there is a dead giant sprawled across one of the hilltops. Most people can't see it, but go round it anyway. At least with the weather being wintry, the hilltop isn't heaving with idiots, which helps. Some of them have been using the cow troughs as dog baths. He despises them. The dead giant is complicated. It isn't corporeal enough to attract scavengers or even enthusiastic bacteria. It just lies there, nearly transparent, motionless. At first he thought it was sleeping, but it looks so wrong. He probably shouldn't do anything with it in case it isn't dead after all, but he is haunted by an old story where the world is made from the body of a dead giant. Could the world be made anew? Or at least patched up a bit? Is this corpse a gift? He's not sure. The rhubarb in him is curious about this, and full of mischief.